We are less than 2 months from the NFL draft, and Saints fans, well, they all have their thoughts on what position the black and gold should be targeting with the 8th pick. However, the NFL free agency period is first, as it kicks off in less than 2 weeks. And what the Saints do there could very well play a hand in what they're thinking toward that first-round pick. Who should be their top targets? Who will be available at the positions they covet most? Let's jump into it with NOAA.com Saints editor Zach Ewing. Also, Gabe is here with his topic of the day. And we'll end our first week of season 6 with whatever else y'all want to talk about, because that's how we roll in the Dattitude podcast. And we roll on right now.
Ready to hear the straight scoop on local and national sports? It's time for Jim Derry's take on the Saints, LSU, what betting lines to ponder, and more. He's got opinions, he's got insight, and he's got Dattitude. And he'll always tell you the way it is, or at least the way he thinks it is.
Where you at, Dattitude family? It is the final show of February. Can you believe it has been more than a month since the 2 conference championship games were played in the NFL? That's right. We are rolling on. We're about to roll into free agency talk here on Dattitude, episode number 477, presented by Evangeline Securities for a Friday, February the 27th, 2026. I am your host, Jim Derry, 35 and a half years on the New Orleans sports media scene. Whether you have just found us, have been around for years, we thank you so much for taking part of your busy day to watch us. Or maybe you're watching later on and it's nighttime when you're watching us. However you're watching, we thank you so much. What is on today's show? It is going to be a Saints-centric show for sure. Zach Ewing coming on about 11:30 or so. He's got a meeting this morning, so he may actually be a little bit late. So we'll see if he comes on at 11:30. Who knows? Maybe we'll bring on Gabe earlier than usual. We'll see. We'll see how that rolls. We'll see how we roll. We'll see how the comments go this morning. We are going to talk about a couple of other things as well. I got some things on my mind that I want to express. I promise it's not about ooh la la. I'm going to get off the ooh la la train. Just whatever. You know what I mean? We're going to talk about a little bit about the Pelicans this morning, talk about their 3-game winning streak. We're going to talk about a key decision in the Louisiana High School Athletic Association. I know not all of you are huge high school fans, but this is something that kind of sticks in my craw, and I want to get that out. That is coming up this morning. So a couple other things coming up. Whatever y'all want to talk about, you know what is special about this show. You type in your comments. We show them here. We talk about it. So again, today is Friday, end of the week. We usually do Mono Monday. I may have a guest on Monday. Who knows? We're coming up next week. I have not figured out our guest situation. I think on next Wednesday, we're going to have a first timer coming on next Wednesday. As of right now, I got to check with him. I got to confirm on Monday, but I believe John Sokoloff from WGNO TV. I was on Eric Asher's show with him a couple weeks ago. He's fantastic. So talk to him. I think he's going to come on the show next Wednesday. Who knows what we'll be talking about? Again, free agency starts on March 9th, so we're probably going to start to shift our focus towards that. Draft is less than 2 months away. It's on April 25th, I believe. So, look, we're gonna have to jam pack a lot of stuff. Now, we'll get to the doldrums of summer later, but we have a lot to talk about over the course of the next 2.5 months. So we're gonna get rolling with Saints talk, and that's gonna happen here this morning. I'm gonna get to the comments in just a minute, but again, I do want to talk about the Pelicans a little bit. 18-42 now. They have won their 3rd straight game as they're beginning a 6-game road trip. I'm gonna say this though, and I'm not trying to poo-poo in the Pels. Okay, I know there are a couple diehards that watch this show, and I appreciate you. But I'm not getting too fired up about beating a Jazz team that is outwardly tanking, okay? The Jazz and the Kings outwardly tanking. The Jazz are now just a half a game ahead of the Pels. The Pels are going to climb over them. The Jazz are trying to lose. They're, again, outwardly trying to lose. But there were some things before I get to something that I'm worried about. There's definitely the huge bright side, and they cannot get rid of Sadiq Bey, in my opinion. They have to find a way to keep Sadiq Bey. A season high 42 points last night. He has clearly been one of the huge bright spots for this team this season. Shot 14 of 20 from the field. Was 5 of 9 from beyond the arc. That's insane. 5 rebounds, 7 assists. What a night for Sadiq Bey. They have got to find a way to keep him. Zion had an okay night, 20 points. DeJounte Murray in his second game back played 26 minutes. That's encouraging. 26 minutes, scored 17 points, shot the ball 12 times. That's great. 5 of 12. Had 9 assists, which is obviously what you're looking at DeJounte Murray for. So those are all the positives. The next up, another positive is they play the Jazz again tomorrow night. So they could literally move ahead of the Jazz with tomorrow night. If they beat them again on the road tomorrow night, and there's no reason to think they won't, because, again, the Jazz are outwardly trying to lose. And they're only 1/2 game up on the Pelicans. Pelicans are 7-21 on the road. 7-21 on the road. But if you look over the course of the upcoming schedule, I'm you know what I think about tanking. I'm not saying that the Pels should tank. I am never going to encourage a team to tank, and the NBA has to do something about. And they're trying to. I will give them credit. It looks like they're finally trying to do something about the outward tanking. But coming up on the Pels schedule, again, just start this 6-game road trip, Utah back-to-back. But then on Sunday, they face the Clippers, who don't care. Then they go to the Lakers, who are just playing terrible right now, even though they're going to be in the playoffs most likely. They're trying to avoid a play-in. They're in sixth right now. At Sacramento, again, another team that's outwardly trying to lose. Phoenix is not playing well. So, I mean, the Pels could have a really nice road trip. Then they come home, play Washington and Toronto before the schedule. Then they go at Houston, home for Dallas, who's playing pretty well. Clippers back-to-back. I mean, they have a lot of games over the course of the next, 3 to 4 weeks that they can win. To me, again, I'm not encouraging tanking. I'm not rooting for the Pelicans to lose. But here's the one thing that worries me about this team. Again, I'll get to some comments in just a minute. If this team finishes strong, yeah, please win. But don't be deluded into thinking that you don't need to make as many changes as you may have thought you needed to make, a few weeks ago. I mean, it was just a month ago, less than a month ago, when the Pelicans were the worst team in the Western Conference. That doesn't change the thinking on, again, major changes are needed for this team. I know there have been lots of nice things written and said about James Borrego. I'm not trying to be negative Nelly here, Derry Downer. But don't be deluded into thinking you don't need to make a major change, and that includes the interim coach. You cannot think you can keep this interim coach and go status quo in the next season. You just cannot. They're still second to last in the Western Conference. Again, they're probably going to be third to last after Sunday. Woo-hoo. Don't be deluded into thinking that major changes aren't needed for this team. I don't know how else to say it. Again, not trying to be outwardly negative about this team, but that's the only thing you worry about when a bad team that needs major changes goes on a run towards the end of the season. Again, not saying that I don't think they should, because they should. Win the game, please. By all means, win the game. All right, about to get to the comment stream and take a couple before we get to another topic that I want to get to, because I actually want y'all to comment on this. Please leave your comments in the stream, whether you're watching live or whether you're watching after the fact. I'd love to hear your comments on your thoughts on the Pelicans. Do they need major changes? Do you think James Borrego is an option? Would you like to see him back? Would you like to see them make that change and go out and find a head coach? Who's going to be available? I don't know. I just know what's, in my opinion, what they've been doing so far, at least what they've done the last couple of years hasn't worked. I think you need to kind of, I don't know if start over is the right word there, but you need to do something. Again, what's different about the show? You type in your comments. We show them here on the screen. Please, we ask you very nicely, if you like what you're hearing, please subscribe to the Dattitude podcast on YouTube. We'd love to have you as part of the Dat family. And if you watch after a bit of time, you say, you know what? I like this show. Please consider supporting financially if you can. You're seeing the current members of the screen at the bottom. If you would like to become a member, it's pretty easy to do and help support this channel. You know who else supports this channel? How about our friends at Evangeline Securities? They are a company that can help you decide if it's the right time to sell your family-run or privately held business. And just as importantly, they can figure out what that business is worth. If that's you, if it's someone you know, it's time to reach out to Evangeline's founding partner, Nick Braden. He will start by scheduling a complimentary valuation from his office, either in Poydras Street or in Lafayette. You know what else is in Lafayette? Oh, yeah, some good food. That's what I meant. From there, you will be well-informed, begin to make the decision on if you want to proceed. What happens after that? Fill you in more later in the show. In the meantime, you can check them out at www.evangelinesecurities.com. Before we go any further and get to the Dat family members and hear what they have to say, let's hear from our friend Joe DiStefano. If you own a small business of fewer than 20 employees, you know how tough it is to get the best rates on health insurance. That's why you want to call Joe DiStefano Insurance. Joe and I have known each other for almost 40 years. I can tell you that he's someone that I trust. Look, health insurance shouldn't be one size fits all. And with Joe DiStefano, you get access to PPO networks and flexible plans designed to fit you, not just a cookie cutter mold. Joe's licensed, he's local, but he can help you no matter where you live and operate. From preventative care to peace of mind, we'll tailor a plan that works for your life today and tomorrow. Call Joe DiStefano at 504-234-2132 to protect what matters most. Let's get this show on the road. What we got here? Good. Rocky was commenting. It looks like 10:30 this morning. You were way ahead of the curve there, Rock. Good morning. Who dat, baby? Hashtag who dat. Jody Alexander. Hey, everybody. What's going on? UBN's excited about the Pels. Woohoo! Of course, UBN is sarcastically excited about the Pels. Charles Mangus is really excited about the Pels. Good morning. Good morning, S. Callie. Good morning, Dylan Smith. Says hello to Gabe as well. Yeah, Zach will be here in a little bit. Sav is here. Drew Brees wants to buy his Padres. Does he really? How did I miss that? I never heard that. I have not heard that. Let's see what else. Earl, you've been a member for a month? Congratulations. Well, we just opened it, I think, a month ago. Were you the first one? I don't remember. It's Friday. Let's go. Absolutely. JC's here. It's beautiful. 60s and sunny in Denver. It is warm. Said no snow since the second half of that Denver Patriots game. Look, man, if you don't believe in divine intervention, I don't know what else to tell you. It's a thing, man. It is a thing. It is going to be, I believe, I know UBN is thrilled. The high today is 75 degrees. It's supposed to be 75. It's already 71. So there you go. It took 13 minutes and 58 seconds, Gabe, to talk about the weather. You can mark that down. You can start keeping track if you want. Good morning, Jerry. How are you, sir? We welcome you here. Gabe says it's going to be 81 in Houston. Even Gabe's talking about the weather. 10JSLC wants to know, do I ever get Jeff Duncan on the show? He used to be a regular. He was my regular Friday guest for a long time. And then Dunk's super busy. But yes, I will get Dunk on the show. I usually like to get him right before the draft. So we have him on usually about 2 or 3 times a year. So the answer is yes. Be a little bit. So I'm saying that Breeze is looking to buy the Padres with the owner of the Golden State Warriors. Okay. We'll see. Chad Gage, good morning. How are you, sir? Adam Varner's here. Looking forward to another fantastic show. So are we. Absolutely. All right, I'm going to get some more comments in just a minute because I know there are some Pels comments in there. Actually, you know what? Hold on. Let me show a couple more. Chris Crump, love the show. We love you for being here. Logan saying, God, he hopes the Pelicans can hire a good, solid coach out of this. Me and you both, man. Me and you both. And the answer to your question, Charles, what other good coaches are out there? Don't know. Don't care. Somebody better than on this staff. Because what this staff has done has won 18 games this year. And as of a week ago today, had won 15 games this year. Big deal. You beat the Sixers, whoop-de-doo. You beat Golden State without Steph. And you beat a tanking Jazz team. I don't care. You got lots of things to do. Nathan, good morning. How are you, sir? All right. A couple other things. I'm going to get back to comments in just a minute. Again, if you type in your comments, we will show them here. But I want to get your thoughts on this. And I know not all of you. You can type in your comments. What do you think about the Pelicans? What do you think about what I'm about to talk about? Or what do you thought your thoughts on Saints and free agency? Because that is going to be our main topic. Zach should be in about 13 minutes or so. I'm going to get to Saints after I talk about this for a moment because it's something that bothers me. And I'm trying to be as, I guess, politically correct is the right way to say it. It's not politics, but I'm trying to be politically correct as possible when I say this. The LHSAA, the Louisiana High School Athletic Association, and their principals overwhelmingly voted for the second straight year to not allow 9th through 11th graders to be eligible for a one-time transfer. They voted 287 to 59. Now, here's what bothers me, okay? In Louisiana, this has been an ongoing thing since the beginning of time. Public school versus private school. Over and over again, we talk about the public schools are so worried about what the private schools are going to do that they lose focus about what high school athletics are really about. And that's about the kids that play the game or the kids that go to the schools. So over and over again, this association, in my opinion, continues to punish kids because of their own agendas. And what it comes down to is public schools thinking, and they argue, and Chris Dabe wrote about it in NOLA.com this morning. It says, quote, critics say it's a way for select schools to gain an advantage over non-select schools and argue that high schools would begin to mirror college athletics. Well, let me address the latter point first. They already are. Okay. There's already NIL and LHSAA. It's already being taken advantage of. And now we're going to look, there are ways to put rules into this to where kids and parents and families don't take advantage of. You're talking about a one-time transfer. It's not like college where you can just go wherever you want after every year. You're not getting 6th and 7th years of eligibility that Gabe Henderson loves so much. No. High schools, how often does it happen? And I know it happens often because I've covered these kids for a huge chunk of my career, where a kid starts at a school and it doesn't work. It doesn't work for him. It doesn't work for the coach. It doesn't work for a lot of things. Why can't that kid be able to transfer to the school of his family's choice? I just don't understand. Are there going to be some families and some kids that take advantage of it? Absolutely they are. But that doesn't take away from the ones that are playing by the rules and the ones that should be able to do it right. You mean to tell me you want a kid to be stuck at a school that neither he or she nor the school, maybe it doesn't work out for either one of them. We've seen this happen all the time. So the way the rule is now, if a 9th or a 10th grader wants to transfer, they can, but then they have to sit out for a year. And they have to transfer, obviously, into a zone that they're eligible. But that's the rule now. Even if they transfer into a zone that they're eligible, they can't play there for a year. They should be allowed a one-time transfer. And again, I understand the reasoning why the principals are saying, but it's the reasoning that these principals have is not about the kids. It's about what's good for them and their schools and their just I'm trying not to say really bad words, especially when we're talking about high schools. But their jealousy, I guess, is the best word over the select schools. Their contempt is probably a better word. Their contempt for the select schools, the private schools. Again, who's getting caught in the crossfire? The kids are. And I've said this over and over again. It's about the kids. And again, if something doesn't work, this isn't 1974. We've got to be open to change. And there aren't enough people who are open to change. 287 to 59. This is overwhelmingly voted against. I mean, that vote tells me that a lot of the private schools are voting against it too. So they say it's an advantage for the select schools, but a lot of the select schools are voting against it. So it can't be that big of an advantage. You know why some of the select schools are voting against it? Because they don't want the bigger select schools, i.e. which not really biggest and bigger in enrollment, but bigger by success. They don't want the John Curtises of the world, the Catholic Highs of the world, whoever, to be able to get these kids to transfer. Still make recruiting illegal. You know, I'm not saying that schools should be able to recruit, but if a kid wants to leave a place and go somewhere else, he should be able to, or she should be able to. Again, at least once. I'm not saying you should make it like the NCAA and they can transfer after every year and enter a quote unquote portal. Do what's right for kids, and they're not going to do that here. And I'll go back to, and I've said, you know, and again, I'm going to move on. Type in your comment in the comment stream and tell me what you think. But, you know, I don't think it's ever going to happen. And the closest that they've come to doing this was about 6 or 7 years ago. But I just look, they ought to just split up. I mean, the private schools don't want to play with the Catholic schools for the most part, and vice versa. You know, there are very few Edna Carrs in the world that want to play with the big name Catholic schools because they know they can whip their asses in football. They don't care who they play. They're going to beat whoever they play. And for the most part, they do. Just saying. It's about the kids over and over again. Mr. Working Man says, good morning. Congrats on season 6. You missed the season opener. Well, you can go back and watch it, Mr. Working Man. We appreciate you for being around. Mark's got a lot of comments, so I'm going to pick one. I'll show this one. Don't let the Pelicans aren't moving, Mark. I don't know how many other ways to say this. They're not going anywhere. The NBA doesn't want them to go anywhere. They're not going anywhere. Saying. Is Louisiana the only high school system, the only high school athletic association that does this? No, they're not. But there are other associations that do allow transfers. Maybe we should do, or maybe I should look into how it's worked for those states that do allow it. Just doesn't make sense not to. All right, we're going to move on. I know y'all don't want to spend a lot of time talking about high school sports, but I just thought it was important to bring up this morning. We're in the middle of the basketball playoffs. The girls are entering the quarterfinals with a trip to Hammond on the line. That's where they play their semifinals and championships. That will begin next week. And the boys, they begun the first round last night. I got to cover Covington and Airline, an exciting game, very close until about the middle of the third quarter. Lions started to break away, and Covington advances to the second round, where they will take on top-seeded Zachary. Good luck to the Lions. I have tonight Skippers of Mandeville and Barb, so I'll be covering that for the Advocate. Okay, let's start talking about football now as we move on. And again, we talked about how the free agency period begins on March 9th. Now, again, I'm going to get into it, Zach. I got lots of questions for Zach because, and I'm going to give NOLA.com a plug here. He says Matthew Paris is in Indianapolis for the Combine. He's got a fantastic story. It kind of goes through lots of different things. there's this one rumor mill story. If you're watching Lance Dobard, close your ears because I have to say the name. But it's a long rumor mill story about things that the Saints could possibly do going forward over the course of the next, a couple months leading up to the draft. What they might do in free agency, what might happen with who, Derek Carr. And the big question for Derek Carr is not necessarily whether he wants to come back. He's pretty much made it clear that he does want to come back. But does anyone want Derek Carr? What's going to happen with his contract? The guaranteed portion of Derek Carr's contract is done. The Saints likely would not have trouble trading Derek Carr if he finds a suitor. So the way that it works basically is Derek Carr's agent finds a team that wants him, and then the Saints have to work out a deal with that team. Will it happen? Does anybody want him? Matthew Parris talks about maybe potentially the most likely teams that it would go to. If you're the Vikings, would you want a Derek Carr? Or would you want to bring back a Kirk Cousins who's available? Good question. The Atlanta Falcons, do you want to bring in someone like that and just basically pass over Michael Penix? I still say they're going to go with Michael Penix. I mean, I kind of be surprised if they don't. We'll see if that's what Stefanski wants to do. There are other possibilities as well. So we're going to see how that plays itself out. Also in the world of free agency, again, which begins on March the 9th. ESPN says this morning they have their 32 best fits. What free agent fits each team the best? And what would you think? What do you think is the best fit for the Saints? If they're going out in free agency, I mean, I know what my answer is, and one of them is on the title slide. I'm going to show the title slide right now again. Go back to it. I mean, in a pipe dream, Kenneth Walker would be fantastic for this team. However, I'd rather go get Jeremiah Love in the draft. We'll talk about that with Zach in a minute. But I think the best fit for this team and what I would advocate for is David Edwards. Because I think that there's unquestionably, in my opinion, guard is the top need for this team. Is that what they're going to do? I'm going to bring Zach on in a minute. He's already in the green room. But back to what ESPN says before I bring on Zach. They say the best fit, and I think it would be a wonderful fit. I just don't think it's realistic. They say the best fit would be Alec Pierce, wide receiver who's been playing for the Indianapolis Colts. And my question is on Alec Pierce, if you're thinking about doing that, again, as much as it would be a wonderful fit, are you really going to spend $50 million, 1/6 of your cap on two wide receivers? Because you're almost, I would say, I would be very surprised if they don't extend Chris Olave and figure out his long-term solution. How much is Chris Olave going to get? $26, $28 million, upwards of $30 million a year. You're going to have to sign Alec Pierce to at least the 3-year contract. What's he going to get? Somewhere in the neighborhood of 20, maybe $20+ million a year? Are you going to spend $50 million a year, which right now would be just shy of 1/6 of the cap, on two wide receivers? I doubt it. Possible. If they can figure out look, I'm not going to say the KTC words. No, I'm not going to say it. But I don't know. I just don't think it's I don't know that it's going to happen. Anyway, other needs. Wide receivers definitely need. Is it possible? Sure, it's possible. That way I think it's going to go. All right, I'm going to bring in Zach just a minute. Let me couple more comments real quick before we move on. Mr. Working Man says he agrees David Edwards would be an awesome addition to the O-line and to also the Banks for sure. Let's see here. He says no on Pierce if you got to give up getting a top guard in free agency, and that's kind of the point. UBN outlook this morning. He says he thinks Pierce is getting the tag. Possible. But I thought I read that they weren't sure on that. I don't know. Let's bring on a man who knows it all when it comes to the Saints. Oh, okay, maybe not all, but he knows a lot when it comes to the Saints. NOLA.com Saints editor, Zach Ewing. What is going on this morning? I see you are probably wearing your Mariners sweatshirt and you were excited about spring training.
Man, World Baseball Classic, baby. Come on.
Okay.
Bring it.
Well,
I'm excited.
I'm actually kind of not usually for stuff like that, but I think in this case I probably will because I don't know. I got more into baseball again last year after kind of letting it slide for a few years. I kind of got into it, not just because the Cubs were good, but I enjoyed it last year. But I will say this before we get started. I'm really not happy about the way that this MLB TV thing is going. And then we're going to have to go through ESPN to get this.
I am very uncertain about it. And it seems like anything ESPN touches turns to crap. So
exactly.
I get it through T-Mobile. It's like a perk of being a T-Mobile, cell customer. You get it for free every year. And from what I understand is that will not change, but I'm a little apprehensive about how it's all going to work and the logins and all that sort of stuff. So I guess we'll find out, but I'm one of those people who, man, I got to have my Mariners in the summer. So I'll pay whatever I need to pay and I'll get whatever I need to get.
Yeah. I don't know if I can go without it. I'm just going to have to suck it up, I think, and just do whatever I got to do. Rainy Cajun says an M's fan in New Orleans. That's interesting. Well, a New Orleans dude in Seattle. I mean, it happens both ways.
I ran into a fellow Mariners fan in Costco last year. So
really?
I'm not the only one.
Yeah, there are a few. UBN sort of is because he loves Griffey, but
that's how that's honestly how my fandom started. Was I was living in Albuquerque as like a 9-10-year-old, and there were no teams around. The Rockies started in '93, but Denver's really not. It's like 6 hours from Albuquerque. It's not that close. And the Mariners, I liked their color scheme and the backward cap and the smile, and they were on TV a lot because of that. And I mean, I just sort of fell in love with them.
You knew you should have made that left turn in Albuquerque.
Yeah.
I want to change
the Weird Al song, Albuquerque.
No, Weird Al has a Albuquerque
Weird
song?
Al has a song called Albuquerque, and like if you're not smoking a joint before you listen to it, you'll want to afterward. It's the zaniest song ever.
I got to check that out. Ryan says, good morning. Was about to say, if you're the right age and loved Griffey, then you're an M's fan. UBN says best swing in baseball. Right after Rocky says best swing he ever saw. Sav's upset because Tariq Skubal's only throwing one game early on in the World Baseball Classic. He's hoped we'd have him in later rounds.
Yeah, but I believe Skeens said he's throwing 2. So
okay,
you'll have Skeens for the semis or the final, depending on how you want to. I don't know how the bracket works out. Basically, if you look at odds and the way that I understand it, the U.S., the Dominican Republic, and Japan are by far the 3 best teams. Now, depending on, there could be an upset in a group stage, or like DR is in the same group as Venezuela, who's also very good. So like you could see one of those teams finish second in their group, and that would screw up the bracketing. But if the U.S. has to play both of those teams, then they're going to have to make a decision. Do we throw Skeens against DR or Japan? And then, Logan Webb or somebody pitches against the other one. But we'll see.
Gabe says, and I quote, Weird Al, smoking joints, sprinkles. What a weird first week of season 6 here on the Dattitude podcast. I don't remember the smoking joints part.
I just said I said you need to smoke a joint after listeing to Albuquerque.
Oh, I thought he's talking about something.
It's the off season, man. What are we supposed to do?
Whatever we want. Jody says she loved Griffey. She still likes the M's, but she's a diehard Cubbies fan, as am I. I mean, but I kind of root for the M's too. I actually do like their color scheme. That's a team that the Cubs have never had any kind of like clash with. So I'm completely fine with the M's. Maybe it'll be an M's Cubs world. So the M's are up there.
Let's meet in October, baby.
That'd be a lot of fun, actually. Larry Bro, as we kind of transition here, says Alec Pierce, the number 1 free agent receiver, and the Saints' MO is to not go out the top free agents, but to pick up the leftovers for cheap after other teams scoop up the top talent. Well, that's only because as of late, Larry, they haven't had any money, so I don't think they've had a choice. I don't know that's necessarily that MO. I think That's a little harsh, I think. I hear where you're coming from, that you're not happy about where they've been, but maybe things will change this year. Maybe they won't. Zach, I want to dive right into something that you guys, I spent a lot of time diving into Matthew Parris's basically rumor mill kind of story this morning. I think it was posted this morning. Was that posted this morning or was it posted yesterday?
People should go read it if you haven't already, because it's got all sorts of, nothing huge, but just little nuggets.
Right.
And that's the great thing about the combine, is that he just walks up and down those hallways and those tunnels, but those walkways between hotels and stuff, and runs into people and hears stuff. And that's the best part of the combine.
Yeah, and it was really good. I thought it was very informative. I got a lot out of it and enjoyed it. And so let's kind of dive into that. That's what I kind of want to focus our time together here today. We'll just kind of like go through things that Matt was talking about in the rumor mill. So let's dive in. And good thing is that Lance is in here, so I'm not going to get the expletive face here when we talk about Derek Carr and the rumor mill about Derek Carr and whether he will play again in 2026. Now, like I said before, I think there's no question that he obviously wants to play again. The question is if he can find a suitor, and then whether the Saints can work out a trade. The first part of this is obviously the key. Can Derek Carr find a suitor?
Yes. I mean, that seems like the most difficult obstacle at this point. It sounds to me like Carr wants to come back. If you want to listen to his podcast and things, I wouldn't recommend it because
it's pretty bad. It's bad.
As someone who hosts 2 podcasts and am a regular guest on this one, it feels like podcasting has jumped the shark. Like we've reached the point of oversaturation, people. There are too many podcasts out there. And
not this one, though. Not this one.
No, not this one. But outside of like Fresno State fans, who's listening to the Cars, brother? I don't know.
Nobody, man.
But anyway,
it's bad.
If you listen to him, it is, every now and then something interesting does come out of it. And he said, something to the effect of like he wants to come back. And I know he mentioned the Super Bowl contender. I think we're going to find out how much he means that and how loose his definition of Super Bowl contender is. Does that mean he needs to go to a team that's been in the playoffs recently? Does that mean he's going to squint hard enough and look at the Arizona Cardinals and say, well, shoot, if they, if the Seahawks could do it, so can the Cardinals. And I don't know. I don't know how stringent he's going to be on that and how badly he wants to come back. But if you look at, what we would reasonably agree to be Super Bowl contenders, Matt mentions 3 of them. And I don't want to give away everything in his story, but it's Minnesota and Pittsburgh feel like they will have other options. Minnesota could bring back Kirk Cousins. Pittsburgh, we don't know what Aaron Rodgers is going to decide to do. There are other guys floating around out there. I think the other 2 teams you could possibly mention are the Miami Dolphins. Don't know what they're going to do. And then the Atlanta Falcons. And the Falcons might honestly be the cleanest fit for Derek Carr, but then the obstacle becomes, would the Saints be willing to ship him to one of their division rivals? I mean, I think I agree with you. I don't know. That seems unlikely to me. Is that worth a 4th round draft pick? Or probably not. No,
it isn't. And I mean, all right, but I'll tell you what, for the sake of, of talking about it, because, we don't want to, I disagree. I don't think the podcast market is too saturated. We can talk about whatever we want. I'm just kidding. For sake of argument, let's say that the Saints, we will trade him to Atlanta. What kind of contract do you think we're talking about here with Carr? Obviously, the guaranteed portion of his contract is pretty much done. The Saints have already figured, he was nice enough to give the $30 million back to the Saints, and they've worked out. They've pretty much gone through their cap issues with him. They still have dead cap money there, but what would happen contract wise if Carr was to find a suitor, even if it was Atlanta, whatever it is?
So because he sat out a year, his contract did not advance. So in other words, he still has 2 years left on his deal. However, as you mentioned, the guaranteed money is basically all gone. It's either been paid or he forfeited that when he retired. And so if he comes back and There is a trade that all parties agree to. Part of that would have to be working out a new contract, because as you mentioned, he was really quite magnanimous in giving some of this money back to the Saints. He didn't have to do that. And so that's why sometimes when people get angry and say, "Oh, Derek Carr," but guys, Derek Carr, I know Derek. Okay, I don't know him really well, but I know him. He is not the kind of guy who came here looking to screw the Saints. Okay, he's not that guy. And in fact, he helped the Saints on his way out of town. So I would cool it on some of that stuff. But he's not going to play for free. Okay, he's not going to play for the league minimum. He's going to want a new deal wherever he goes. And I think you're probably looking at it. Now, he was slated to make $37.5 million his last 2 years of that deal. He's probably not going to get that. But if, people are talking about 25 to 30 million a year for Malik Willis, if Malik Willis can get 25, $30 million a year as a guy who started like 6 games in his career, we don't think Derek Carr can get 25 or 30 million a year. I think he can.
Yeah, I agree. I certainly think he can get 25 or 30 million. I think the numbers being floated around from Malik Willis, I don't know if they're realistic or not, but if they are, that's just absurd. I mean, who's going to pay 30 million? I mean, you're just begging to dive into Doomsdayville if you pay $30 million for Malik Willis.
I think if we can go big picture for a second, that's the point here, is that the quarterback marketplace is pretty barren, right? Like the Raiders are going to get Fernando Mendoza, but the draft after that is Nussmeier going to wow everybody? Is Ty Simpson going to wow everybody and get up into the end of the first round or something? I mean, maybe that will happen, but if that doesn't happen, then you look at the free agent class, and I mentioned Kirk Cousins. Okay, is Carr or Kirk Cousins more reliable for next year? It's probably pretty close. Kirk Cousins played last year. Carr didn't, but Cousins is also older.
He's 30, going to be 38.
Yeah, they're both injury prone. So I think they're probably 50-50 there as far as who you would prefer. Then you've got Malik Willis. Then you've got like Tanner McKee and Davis Mills and these guys who are backups who are like, well, maybe they could start. But again, would you take them over Derek Carr? I think if you're a team that's looking to contend right now this year, you'd rather have a guy who's proven he can win games in the NFL. I know, and people will laugh, but he has been like essentially a 500 quarterback in his career in the NFL. And if you surround him with the right pieces, it's a lot easier to see that working out than it is saying, oh, Tanner McKee's look great as a backup for the Eagles. Let's bring him in and we'll be in the playoffs. I don't think so. So when you start to look at the options that are out there, Derek Carr, I think, has an opportunity for somebody to take a chance.
Yeah, and Rainey kind of asked a question that we're talking about here. Is Carr's past injury going to reduce his overall perceived value to other organizations? And I think that it has to, right? I mean, if you're talking about somebody coming off of a major injury that led you to early retirement, and now you want to come back, and nobody knows what you're going to – I mean, is someone going to say, we want to give this dude $30 million and give him the keys to the franchise, and we don't know? I mean, obviously he would get a major physical and put him through workouts before anyone would sign him, but still, I mean, are you going to trust someone to do that?
Right. I mean, that's the thing, is you're going to have to trust your medical team. You're going to have to trust that, hey, yes, this shoulder is going to hold up for 17 games plus. Part of me is I still wonder, did Derek Carr have to retire, or could he see that this was a toxic situation in New Orleans and he had the injury, and so he said, you know what, I'm just going to step away? Is it as serious as everyone was making it out to be a year ago? I don't know the answer to that question, and teams will have to find that out. But if we all know shoulder injuries are serious. Like, it's the reason the Dolphins didn't sign Drew Brees, right? Because they were scared off by this shoulder injury. But Drew Brees, perfect example of it can still work out.
No, he was 26 or 27.
He was a lot younger. But the point is, like, it doesn't have to be a death knell for your career. You could still come back and play. And is it going to cost him? Is it going to make teams skeptical? Of course it is. And that's why he's never going to touch the $37.5 million he was going to make. But if as Matt said in his story, it just takes one team to be interested. Well, what if there's two teams who are interested and just determine that Derek Carr is the best option? That's when the bidding war goes up a little bit. Hey, we're willing to pay 25. We're willing to pay 27. We're willing to give up a 4th-round pick. We're willing to give up a 3rd-round pick. I mean, that's when you start to get into a little bit of a bidding war, both for the draft compensation the Saints would get and for the salary.
All right, let me take up for Derek Carr for just a minute. Rocky, I know you're a part of the hater club. I get it. No one's a part of the liker club when it comes to Derek Carr, but injury, Carr's mind was out of New Orleans the minute Diego. The dude was really hurt. You don't give up that kind of money, no matter how much you want out or go somewhere else, whatever. He was really hurt, Rocky. And to everyone else who believes that same thing, he was really hurt. I mean, and he got hurt on a play trying to bust his ass in a meaningless game against a horrendous football team in maybe the worst football game I've seen in like 2 years, in that Giants game, diving for a first down that no one wants to give him credit for because his name is Derek Carr. Had Tyler Shuck done the same play, he'd be like a martyr.
Jim, people forget this. It was 2nd down. He didn't have to even do.
I know. I'm not saying it was smart to do it. I'm just saying he was hustling and busting his ass.
I think no, there's no clarity on whether that's exactly the play where he got hurt. I mean, it sounded like it was sort of a degenerative situation from a shoulder injury he actually suffered against the Chiefs earlier in the year.
That
I'm sorry, the previous year. I'm thinking of the previous year against the Packers. The Chiefs was an oblique. But yeah, look, you don't fake an injury to that degree because number one, as you said, he gave up a lot of money. Number two, if it was ever proven that he was faking that, he and the Saints would be in a whole heap of trouble.
Absolutely.
There's way too much risk to be lying about something like that. I don't believe for a second they were lying. I do think there's a possibility that maybe it was not exaggerated, but like they threw their hands up a little bit earlier than they had to and said, well, what are you going to do? His career's over.
Yeah, right.
And both sides sort of seem to
absolutely
agree to that. And now a year later, Carr is saying, hey, I can actually still throw. I can still play. And so the medical teams will have to figure that out. But
I got to say, if I had to bet, I bet he doesn't play. I just don't think anyone's going to give him the money he thinks he's going to need. I don't know that it's so too many things have to happen for him to come back. I'm not saying he wouldn't come back. Maybe like, I don't know, at some point, somehow. I just don't, it doesn't feel like he's coming back. Maybe I'm wrong. I don't know.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm certainly wrong about him before.
The other possibility here is that he pulls a Phil Rivers, where midway through the season, those teams that didn't want him in the offseason or thought they had a better plan, now all of a sudden they've had some injuries and their young guys are not playing well, but they're still in the hunt. And it's, October 27th and the trade deadline's coming up, and they say, hey, New Orleans, we're actually interested in Derek and we'll give you a 3rd rounder next year for him. It's possible.
Done. Yeah. Take it. Do it. Earl says he thinks he was hurt, but he wanted it out because he was treated like shit here. I mean, absolutely. I mean, I think that's 100%. And there's no question he wanted out. I don't blame him for wanting out. So, all right, enough Derek Carr talk. Let's move. Good thing Lance is not here. He'd be really upset about it now. But Shane Bergeron has a comment that I think leads us kind of is a nice transition. And he says, needs for Saints interior lineman free agency. He wants running back in the draft. Love would be great. But we know you can find value in the 2nd round and 3rd round, just like they did with Alvin Kamara in the 3rd round in 2018, I believe. 2017, 2018, I think. Good point. And it kind of leads me into where we want to go and talk about free agency. What do you think is the Saints? I mean, I have my opinions. I've made them pretty clear, but just going through, and this kind of has to do with Matt's story. I want to get into Alontae Taylor in a minute, but what do you think the Saints' number one priority is going to be in free agency?
I just think it makes too much sense for a guard to not be the answer. I mean, because number one, this just so happens serendipitously to be a year when there's a lot of good guards. I saw you mentioned David Edwards, but he's one of like 5 or 6 guys who's a starting level guard who's on the market. The
top 5, according to Spot Track, are on the screen right now. They are, and this is according to what their value is worth. This is not necessarily who's the best ones, but according to the top 5 guys, to what they're projected to get or their market value, according to Spot Track, are David Edwards of the Bills, Braden Smith of Indianapolis, Ed Ingram of Houston, Joel Bitonio from the Browns, and Elijah Vera Tucker from the Jets. You can go and look for if you want to go further. And guys that are
expected. Malo of Pittsburgh is also out there. I mean,
there are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 guys with a market value of over $10 million, and then a couple more that are like really close. So this is the year. If you need a guard in free agency, this is the year to do it, because they're unlike most years. Usually there aren't a lot because teams do whatever they can to keep their good guards. But this is a year if you need a guard to go get one in free agency. Or two.
It really worked out well for the Saints as far as that goes. In fact, I wouldn't be totally opposed to getting one of these guys and then going and getting, maybe a cheaper, lower level one as Cesar Ruiz insurance, or in case the first one doesn't play the way you wanted. You just add depth to that offensive line.
Right.
It's never a bad thing. If they could bring back Luke Fortner, which again, Luke has a little bit of news about him. I mean, sorry, not Luke. Matt has a little bit of news about him in his thing this morning, which I won't spoil. But like, you want as much depth in those spots as possible, because as we know, injuries happen. Again, Cesar Ruiz, I still believe can be a starting level player, but there has to be just a little bit of concern between his injuries and the fact that he had a poor season last year, that like, what if we need two guards? And so I wouldn't be opposed to going to get not necessarily two off this list you have here, but
not two in the top 10
guys, right, and then another lower level guy.
Who number 11 is? Yeah, I get the top 10. I told you the guys that are in the top 10 that have 10. You see the top 5 on the screen, but the number 11 guard, according to Spot Track, projected to make in the neighborhood of just shy of $10 million a year, is Trevor Penning.
Oh, geez.
That ain't gonna happen.
Maybe don't go that low, but again, it's not just the fact that this is a great free agent guard class, but also you have the number 8 pick. You don't want to use that on a guard. You probably don't even want to use the number 39 or 40 pick on a guard. Could you pick up that lower level guard in the 4th or 5th round? Yes, you could do that. Pick up a guy you like on the second day, third day of the draft, and make him kind of be your depth. That I'd be fine with. Nick Saldiveri is still floating around out there.
That's what I was saying. Are they giving up on him totally?
Hasn't been able to stay healthy, but they know more than we do on his medicals, so he's a possibility. Like, the depth is not as big of a concern, but yes, I think given the fact where you're drafting and the other holes you have, which it certainly sounds like Alontae Taylor is leaving, that becomes a massive hole too. Edge rusher, depending on what Cam Jordan decides, even if he comes back, you're going to need one of those. Those are positions, wide receiver, running back. Those are positions you want to address in the draft. Whereas guard, you're sitting here with this great free agent class. You finally have a little bit of money to spend. Makes way too much sense to me to go ahead and fill that hole through free agency and not have to worry about it on draft day.
The guy, Zion Johnson from the Chargers, Ethan Posick, LSU guy, but he's going to be almost 31 years old. Daniel Falele, Wyatt Teller. So another 3 Browns guys in the top 10. So that'll be interesting to see how and I honestly, I'd almost rather say, and I know they're probably not going to do this, because I think, to your point, I'm not as high on Cesar. I don't necessarily think Cesar Ruiz can be rehabilitated, I guess the right word. However, with the money they're spending on him, I think they're going to go into next year with him as the starter. Maybe if the line gets better, if Eric McCoy comes back healthy, obviously we've got a lot of ifs here. If Eric McCoy comes back healthy, they go get a left guard, then you can kind of, I don't know if hide's the right word with Ruiz, but he doesn't, it's not like the sore thumb. It's not like the edge of your thumb is cut off. It's much different for Ruiz if the rest of your line is good. When your line stinks, I mean, you just automatically blame a guy that was drafted in the first round.
Yeah, 100%. He's been a little bit of a scapegoat. That said, he did not play well. Mickey Loomis doesn't usually do this, but he specifically mentioned him as someone who's got to play better.
Yeah, he never does
postseason press conference. I mean, they know it. Caesar knows it.
Right.
But you're right. If Eric McCoy's there all year and you find a a left guard who fits right in, one of these guys from this list. I really like Ed Ingram, by the way, out of that list. A lot of people haven't mentioned him, but former
Gabe
LSU
loves
guy,
him.
bring him home, man. And the Texans GM said something weird about him this week where he said, hey, we'd like to bring him back, but sometimes a change of scenery is best for everyone. Like, it doesn't sound like they're really thrilled with maybe his price point, where maybe the Saints are willing to pay a little bit more. I don't know but whoever it is, you bring in somebody you like at that spot, and you hope that Ruiz has a better season. If he doesn't, you have a couple of backup options, and then you use the draft to go address the skill positions, the slot corner, and the edge rusher. That's what I would do.
Before we move on from linemen, I just want to throw out there, and Lance is in here this morning, but I know he'll probably go back and watch the show. He's been advocating for many, many weeks now. This is not going to happen. I do not advocate this. He is so scared about McCoy. He wants to turn McCoy into a guard and go out and spend $20 million on Tyler Linderbaum. I just don't, from the Ravens, I just don't see that. That's not a real option. Right?
Linderbaum's a good player, but for one thing, the Ravens are a smart organization. You always have to ask yourself, if they're not willing to pay him that much, why are you? And then the second thing is, if you're going to go spend $20 million on an interior lineman in free agency, why would you not just go get the top guy on this list and do that, instead of making your all-pro center move positions, and who knows if he'll be as effective? And that, like, the fewer moving, we talked about this with last year with moving Fuaga to right tackle and Banks at left tackle and stuff. Like, the fewer position moves you have, I think generally the better you are.
Yeah. No, I absolutely agree.
Don't make guys learn something new on top of everything else.
Yeah, you brought up a position and something else in Matt's story. Again, I know that you don't like that we're giving away a lot of stuff, but it's still, no matter what we talk about here, 100% go read this. I'm telling you, it is. I probably spent 15 minutes in this story, kind of going up and down and through it and back through a different part again. So it's absolutely worth going check out on NOLA.com this morning. But you talk about the free agent cornerback list, and according to Spot Track, Alontae Taylor is 4th on this list. And Matt talks about how he's currently looking for like Paulson Adebo money, which is in the neighborhood of $18 million. Spot Track thinks his value is somewhere closer to 11 or 12 million. If it's 11 or 12 million, I think the Saints are probably in the market, but it's probably going to be somewhere in between that, if I had to guess, Alontae Taylor. But you're leaning towards thinking that he probably won't be coming back.
Yeah, I mean, we podcasted about this Wednesday on the Saints Insider. It's just, it seems like both sides are ready to move on, because Taylor's he had a TikTok live where he's talking about, how much he's worth. And he didn't mention specific numbers, but it was clear he wasn't getting the offer he wanted from the Saints. And part of that is, he probably feels like, hey, I'm an outside corner. I moved inside to help the Saints and help us win. So why are you now punishing me that by offering me inside corner money for when I'm, capable of playing outside? Whether that's true or not, I mean, he struggled at times when he was on the outside. Having said that, a lot of the best receivers in the NFL are now lining up in the slot. So I think we're actually going to see that slot corner number move up closer to outside corner money anyway in the next few years. I think that's one of the contract trends you'll see. And so, yeah, you're not getting him for 11 or 12 million. I also don't know that he's getting to 18 or 19. So it's not impossible that the Saints would, maybe they're at 14 right now and Taylor's looking for 18. And in a couple weeks, when he realizes no one will give him 18, he'll go back and say, hey, would you do 16 to the Saints? And they'll find, they'll settle on 15 or 16. I don't know. I mean, it's possible, but there also appear to be suitors around the league. The Raiders, the Titans, are the two that you hear a lot, like, who may be willing to go closer to that number that he wants.
Jim Derry here with Zach Ewing on this Friday morning, our regular Friday friend. Zach Ewing here with us just about every Friday. There'll be some Fridays in the offseason he can't make it, but here for the most part as our first Friday of season number 6, our last Friday in February. We thank you for joining us, and if you like what you see, please subscribe to the Dattitude podcast. Zach, I just think that you can't overspend for an Alontae Taylor. However, if you don't sign him, it's like then you have to start thinking about man, this would really bug. But I mean, and I read about, Caleb Downs had a conversation with the Saints, the Ohio State cornerback. But then you have to start thinking about, is that a position you want to draft at 8? And to me, you have so many other needs. If you lose Alontae Taylor, I mean, it's a legitimate thought. We talked about this with Mike Detillier the other day. I mean, it becomes up there amongst your top priorities if you don't sign him back.
It does, yeah. And I mean, I think Caleb Downs then becomes a legitimate possibility. And I know Gabe just said in the private chat here that Downs is a safety, not a corner. He's capable of playing slot corner. That guy is he's good enough in coverage. Teams see him as a guy who could do that and play the Alontae Taylor role of also helping out in run support, maybe even rushing the passer from time to time, kind of being that hybrid role that we've seen Derwin James play in Brandon Staley's defense. He could be that guy, and that guy is very valuable. Okay. So is he worth it over Jeremiah Love? I could be convinced of that. I think both of them are super talents. I think they might be two of the more talented players in the entire draft. I know that Jeremiah Love is the shiny new toy, and you would get to see the impact right away. And I know the Saints need a running back, but I think Downs is a legitimate option. I don't think anybody should be upset if the Saints chose Downs over Love if it came to that.
I'm with Scott Claremont. The pick, if he's there, Love has to be the pick. They almost never make the pick that it has to be a quote unquote has to be. They almost never do that. So I know I'm setting myself up for a major letdown as we move into the running back.
Just one more thing on that. I would also say at this point, I would bet heavily against both Downs and Love being available at number 8. I think at least one of them is gone by then, if not both.
I would be, and as we move into the running back talk, if we had a great conversation with Mike Detillier, that's made a short out of it. If you just want to catch the 2-minute clip or the 2.5-minute clip, you can find the short on YouTube and on Facebook. I think I even put it on X, but yeah, and TikTok, by the way. I think is going in. The Saints really, really need to do one of two things, Zach. They either need to draft Love or beforehand. And I think this will dictate what they're thinking, because if they don't go after one of the top 2 guys, I think then their hands kind of forced. I think they have to get Kenneth Walker, Travis Etienne, or Jeremiah Love, in my opinion. I think we know that even if Alvin Kamara comes back, right now I say it's 50-50. I know you think it's higher than that. But even if he comes back, a 31-year-old running back, you've got to set yourself up for the future. And any one of those 3 guys could do that. You have to spend a lot of money on Walker Etienne. You get Jeremiah Love in here at 21 years old and sign him to a rookie deal and have him for 4 to 5 years.
I guess I'm just not quite. I don't think that running back is the emergency situation that you think it is. Like, Alvin Kamara was not good last year. He was fine. You have Devin Neal. You have, and I know
is being very nice.
Injury, but what's that?
Fine is being very nice.
Well, he was hurt. If he's healthy again, you could expect better play. I mean, you have Kendry Miller, you have Devin Neal. I mean, you've drafted some guys. Like, could you improve there? Absolutely, you could improve there. And if you could get a difference maker like Jeremiah Love or Kenneth Walker, then yes, that maybe makes. Kenneth Walker, though, for one thing, I would be very surprised if the Seahawks did not find a way to bring him back. He was too important to what they did last year. So to me, he's on this list because he is a pending free agent. He seems like he's going back to Seattle.
And look, I didn't put Breece Hall on this list because Hall is almost certainly going back to the Jets, even though he's probably going to go back kicking and screaming. But the other guys on this list know about Kenneth Walker, everything that I've been reading.
The other guys on this list are just dudes to me. Like, Travis Etienne is not. You're going to pay big money to bring him in and think that he's just going to solve everything. I don't think that that's right. If that's your choice and it's going to cost you money to bring in a free agent elsewhere, whether it be at corner or at guard or wherever else you may spend money, to me, it's just slide it out.
Look, if you look, and I know not everything's based on stats, and Alontae Taylor leaves, things change. But here's one thing I'm going to point out to you: the Saints in rankings last year, They were 28th in the NFL in rushing the football, and that's actually higher than I thought it was. I thought it was more like 30th. They were 28th in the NFL in rushing last year. Let's see. Rushing yardage. They were obviously led by Alvin Kamara, who led the team in rushing with 471 yards. Second was Devin Neal at 206. Audric Estime had 198 yards, and we knew he had the one good game. The Saints defensively, passing, they were fourth in the NFL in passing defense. Now, and a lot of that had to do because they overachieved probably along the front line, and that helped things. But still, I mean, again, I know if you, and I just said it, if they lose Alontae Taylor, it obviously becomes a big need. But in my opinion, there is no question that the two top needs on this team, I don't even think it's close, are guard, and this is even, let's assume Alontae Taylor leaves. It's still guard number one, running back number two, and I think quite a ways to number three is then becomes defensive back. But and you're right. I know not everyone shares my opinion on the dire needed running back, but I don't think you can count on Kamara at all. So even if he comes back, I don't think you can count on him at all.
You're saying that even if Alontae Taylor leaves, you would have corner way behind running back as a need.
I would. It's a need. It's a need, and it's a big need. I would rather go out and get. There are things you can do, and someone talked about potentially moving Sanker and the possibility of doing. There are different things you can do. Again, I'm not saying I'm not disagreeing with you that it's a huge need, and it obviously becomes a much bigger need. I just think there are easier ways to address the defensive back situation than running back.
I would just, as a counter argument, I would bring up a name that you mentioned, and that's Audric Estime, who is a journeyman and may not even be in the NFL this fall. He ran for 94 yards in a game for you this past season. And if you improve your offensive line, particularly your interior offensive line,
I agree with you.
If you can get a difference maker at running back, like a Jeremiah Love or a Kenneth Walker, then yes, you go and you can make more plays. You can change your offense that way. But if you don't get those guys, let's say Walker goes back to the Seahawks. And by the way, one of the biggest complaints about Alvin Kamara is his pass blocking. Kenneth Walker is not a good pass blocker. He's not. Yeah. You would not. I mean, like that would be a weakness you would not be addressing. But if for some reason you feel like Caleb Downs fits your needs better at 8 than Jeremiah Love does, or if someone takes Love before you and you can't get him or Walker, then the rest of these guys to me don't move the needle. And I'm just pushing that need to next season. I'm just getting along with what I've got for one more year. But on the contrary, if you lose Alontae Taylor, you're saying that you're okay with your starting cornerback group being Kool-Aid McKinstry, who improved last year but is still a little up and down, Quincy Riley, a fourth-round rookie who was forced into duty, and then Jonas Sanker, a converted safety, coming down, and you have no depth behind that. That is a much bigger need than running back, where you could throw Audric Estime in and make do.
Look, I'm not. I hear what you're saying. I don't even know that I don't strongly disagree with you. I mean, I agree. I actually agree with a lot of the things you're saying. I just think that for this team, and it goes back. I want to show this comment again. I showed it. I didn't think I was going to go back to it, but Ryan says the Saints are closer than we think. Got to nail this offseason, and talks about offense. I just think that. I think that this team with a premier guard and like you say, a difference maker at running back completely changes this offense can go back to being a top 10. I think they're that close to being a top 10 kind of offense. And I think there are ways to fill the defensive back situation. I agree with almost everything you said. I just think that those are two things that change this football team right off the bat, and you can make things work elsewhere.
I just think making things work is a much more viable strategy at running back than it is at.
I hear you.
I mean, and again, if you now a difference maker, a guy who can hit home runs for you, who can pop, he turns what would be a 10-yard run for Audric Estime into an 80-yard run. If you could get one of those, sign me up. That's Jeremiah Love. Like that makes a difference. But if we're talking about Travis Etienne and you're talking about paying him a bunch of money in free agency.
Yeah, I'm not a Travis Etienne guy. I just brought him because he's one of the top two guys.
Besides Walker, and again, Walker to me seems unlikely because number one, Seattle probably keeps him, and number two, he's going to be the most expensive guy on this list by far. And so I'm just not like drafting Jeremiah Love. That's one conversation. But if that's not on the table, I'm just there's a comment here from Adam too. If you could show it about it, the effort from Kamara, I actually agree with that. I think his effort was a little bit down, but to me, that's a reason for a little bit of optimism for a bounce back from him. Because number one, I think part of that was because
too old to have a bounce back.
Part of that was because he was playing hurt, and part of that was because he was playing on a bad team that was going nowhere. And I think the optimism around Shuck, maybe a little bit of a revamped offensive line. I think you could get one more year, kind of renaissance year out of Alvin Kamara, if that's what it comes down to. Now, again, Jeremiah Love, different conversation, but anybody else, to me, I'm prioritizing defensive back. I'm prioritizing guard. I'm even prioritizing edge rusher and wide receiver over running back.
Again, Alvin Kamara, his problem, I don't think his problem was anything else but the fact that he's 30 and now going to be 31. And again, he's not Derrick Henry, other than a very few exceptions. Running backs, that there's no other position on planet Earth that it matters when that first number of your age is a 3 than running back. Literally. I mean, wide receiver is probably a close second, but running back is up there.
Well, in that case, then you make do with Devin Neal and Kendra Miller. I mean, it's just not, if you can improve the offensive line, make teams respect the pass more with Shuck. The running game is going to improve on its own, and none of these other guys you're talking about are difference makers.
Yeah, well, I mean, I think, and we've talked about this before. You feel it's better than 50-50. You think Alvin Kamara is going to be back. It doesn't. I mean, I don't want to put words in your mouth, but what you said in shows before is the Saints don't save enough after June 1. He'd have to be a June 1 cut, a post June 1 cut. They would save $9 million salary cap wise, but what do you sign in June? I think if they did do a post June 1 cut, I think that's when you go get a second, maybe potentially a second guard or something. If you do get rid of Kamara post June 1.
Yeah, it's possible. And I think it becomes more likely if you do draft Love, because then you're like, well, what are we doing with AK? Now, there's certainly an argument that you leave AK around to mentor Jeremiah Love for a year and kind of split carries with him a little bit, where Love maybe gets 70% of the load and Kamara gets 30% and whatever. But if they don't draft Love, I just don't see them going out to spend a whole bunch of big money when they've got Kamara on contract.
I actually think it's the opposite. What you just said, I think it's more likely that Kamara stays if they do draft Love, because for the exact reason you say. I think Kamara, then you could only have to run him like 10, 12 times a game. He only has to play like half the time. 31-year-old back could be effective if he only has to play, 25 downs. Sort of like, and I don't think Deuce was 30 yet, but coming off of the ACL, but like Deuce played with Deuce in 2006. Gabe, if you could look up, tell me what Deuce McAllister's age was in 2006, but kind of like the Saints used Deuce in 2006 when they had Reggie Bush, and Deuce was there to help mentor Reggie Bush, who, by the way, was getting some really bum raps this week. I have no idea why. Reggie Bush was a fantastic first-round pick. Absolutely worth what he got drafted at. So Deuce was 28. Okay, so he's 2 years behind what Kamara, 3 years behind what he is now. But I think Kamara more likely to stay if they do draft the Love, and I think that would be a great combination. Kamara could be a transition, help Love get into this league, and again, I think then you get the best out of AK in that regard.
Yeah, and I do think regardless, Kamara's coming back. He's going to play out the last year of this deal, and then he'll either retire or the teams will go their separate ways, or he'll stick around as a backup on a small money deal or something. But I just, again, the types of running backs
I don't even want to play, honestly.
Who's the difference maker outside of Jeremiah Love? And I'll give you Kenneth Walker, but as for reasons I've mentioned, that's very unlikely.
If you ask Gabe, Rico Dowdle, baby.
He's fine.
I'm not saying
he's
that.
Fine, but
I think Isaiah Pacheco getting a scenery change. I think he could be really good.
Are these guys transforming your offense? No,
I don't know.
No,
anyway.
You
I hear what you're saying.
Back, man. These guys aren't transforming your offense. Jeremiah Love could transform your offense potentially. Maybe Kenneth Walker. Outside of that, I'm out. Just let it ride. Maybe go get another piece for depth. But if you improve the offensive line and the passing game, your running game will come along anyway.
And then kind of just touching on the draft. I mean, we've kind of done all that at the same time here, but when you talk about the draft and where teams are, like who would theoretically be interested in a Jeremiah Love, and you look at this list, Zach, and I don't know that he really goes unless someone trades ahead of him. I could see the Commanders maybe at 7. They certainly need a running back, but they need all kinds of things. So I don't necessarily think they're going to do that. Gabe says rumors circulating the Giants have some interest. I mean, everybody's going to have interest, but I mean, you also hear these teams that are the Peyton was great at it. Peyton would throw shade on, like, leak it that they're interested in somebody they're not really interested in. Peyton again was the best at that and may do it again this year. But if you realistically look at these teams and where teams are going to go position wise, other than the Commanders and other than maybe the Chiefs jumping ahead of the Saints, I don't know that that Love is. I think he's there at 8.
Probably. I will say this. We know Mendoza's going number 1. And it sounds to me like the trade the Jets made yesterday, trading Jermaine Johnson, makes me think they're going to go with their favorite edge rusher at 2, whether that's David Bailey or Arvell Reese, or it sounds like Ruben Bain is not probably going that high, but whoever they prefer, say. Okay, so that's 2 picks. Mendoza's off at number 1. Top edge rusher is off at number 2. That leaves 5 picks to get to the Saints. Out of those 5 picks, we expect probably one of those other edge rushers goes. We expect a couple of offensive linemen to go. Now you're down.
Downs is going to go.
Who's that? Yeah, Caleb Downs probably going to go. So now you're down to like 1 pick. Does a receiver go? Does a third offensive lineman go? Does the third edge rusher go? Or is it Jeremiah Love? Like it's very close to the point where you could feel pretty confident if you're the Saints that he'll be around. And we've talked about this. The other aspect is a lot of those teams in the top 7 are not in a position where they would draft a running back. Now the Commanders are one who would, and then you also have the trade up, the Chiefs from 9, could they trade up? There's other teams that may want to trade up into that 5-6 range, that 6-7 range to get Jeremiah Love. Had to do
that was coming. I knew, I felt it.
And then it just depends on how badly the Saints want him over. They would want if Downs is still around, or I know Mike talked about Mansour Delane and also Kai Lemon. I agree with him on both of those counts. I like both of those guys, and they both fit what the Saints are looking for in certain.
Yeah, we haven't even really talked about wide receiver. I mean, that's absolutely a pop. And to me, that's where I would go. I mean, if Love is gone and he's not available, if somebody, I really think the main thing the Saints need to worry about if they want Love is someone jumping ahead of them, like the Chiefs did with Mahomes. I think that's
Washington's the only team that's actually ahead of them right now that I would think is a threat to take Love. The other 6 teams I don't see.
Again, like I said, the Commanders have so many needs. I don't necessarily think that they might, but I don't think that's what they would do. I mean, well, that's true too. But I actually, so my wish list goes Love, and then my second after that would be the top receiver, whoever they think the top receiver is.
Yeah, and I personally think it's Mekhi Lemon. He's not as big as and there's interesting another headline from the combine was that Carnell Tate from Ohio State this was not at the combine. He was asked a few weeks ago on a podcast or something which NFL quarterback he could see himself playing with. And he mentioned 2 by name. He mentioned Josh Allen, who's 2-time MVP. Okay, who wouldn't want to play with him? And he mentioned Tyler Shuck. So, and Matt has a short post up on, because Matt asked Carnell Tate about that at the combine this week, saying, well, why'd you mention Chuck? Why, you could have mentioned Lamar Jackson, you could have mentioned Mahomes, you could have mentioned any of these guys. Why'd you mention the rookie? And he gave an answer to that. So, but I prefer Lemon myself. He's kind of a contested catch specialist. He's got really good hands and route running. And to me, that's something the Saints really need, is a guy who can kind of work those tight areas and get you some. The other thing, he's really good at the yak. And they don't have that right now. I mean, Olave has basically sacrificed yak for protecting himself, which is probably a good trade because he's good at everything else. Get down, don't take a hit. But Devon Vele, I don't know. The only thing that gives me pause on the wide receiver is that the Saints did add to that room last year with a couple of young guys that we haven't seen yet in Jalen Polk and Trey Palmer. And so they do have kind of a youthful wide receiver room. Would they spend a top 10 pick on another young wide receiver, or do they want to see what Polk and Palmer have first?
I think they're willing to spend a top 10 pick on a receiver if that's what I mean. I don't know. I mean, Jordan Tyson is what? How big is he? 6'2", 200. Also up there, possibility.
Yeah, he'd be the third possibility, but I prefer Lemon myself.
All right. Before I let you go, also there was one other. There are several other things in Matt's rumor mill story that are worth going. Several. I'm telling you, go out and check the story. It's the best thing that I've read in the last couple of weeks, actually. But he says, quote, "It wouldn't be surprising to see Demario Davis talk to other teams." I actually think it would be surprising if he didn't. I said I've been saying 50-50. I'm leaning more. I'm going more. I'm like 40-60 now. I think Demario Davis is, from things that I'm hearing, from just reading through tea leaves, things I've heard from different people, I think Demario Davis might think that he's gone.
Yeah, I think I agree with you. I think what has happened is the Saints have given him an initial offer, as they have with all of these guys who are pending free agents. And Demario thinks he can get more than that. And now he's going through that internal struggle of, if I can go make a few more million and I can maybe go make a playoff run, a Super Bowl run in my career, which he hasn't had the opportunity to do since early in his time in New Orleans. Yeah, I mean, I don't know, and he's got to weigh that against how much New Orleans means to him. He's a Mississippi guy. He's really ingrained in the community here.
Yep.
I know he likes it here. And so he's got to make that decision for himself. And in order to make that decision, you got to know, who are my suitors? Are Dennis Allen and the Chicago Bears, do they want me to come in and be a veteran presence on that defense? 49ers could use help at linebacker, I know, with all the injuries that they've had. I don't think it's impossible he comes back to the Saints, but I do think he's looking.
Well, Birdie told me, and someone that would know, that he's already moved out of his New Orleans area home and he's back living in Mississippi. So, I mean, it could be just that it's the offseason, but from what I'm told, that he actually gave up the house. So I don't know if that's true or not, but we'll see. Again, I'm just getting the sense, and everything that I read and see, the sense that, look, and he wants a ring. I can't blame him. I mean, he knows he's got 2 years probably left. I mean, we talked about this the other day as well. I mean, Ricky Jackson, one of the most endeared Saints of all time, left and went and played at the same, you got to think about when he left, and he went to the 49ers when the 49ers were in the Saints division. He went and played in division because that's where he thought his best place to get a ring was. And guess what? He won a ring. So you can't blame Demario Davis if that's what he decides to end up doing.
No, I agree. And I don't think it would be, that's the other factor here is, if he comes back to the Saints and says, well, you go from 9 million to 11 million or whatever the conversation is,
right,
are they motivated to do that? I mean, they've
right.
got Danny Stutzman, who they really like, waiting in the wings to fill that role. Of course, you could go get somebody else or use a day 2 or day 3 pick on a linebacker as well to add some depth. I don't think, it sounds crazy to say it out loud, but I don't think Demario Davis would be the biggest loss on this team. To me, Alontae Taylor, not as good of a player as Demario Davis, because of Stutzman, Alontae Taylor would leave behind a much bigger hole that you would be forced to address versus Demario.
Yeah, but I mean, also we talked about, Alvin Kamara is kind of a quiet guy, and someone in the comment stream earlier was talking about how, is he really a mentor? Yeah, I think he can be a mentor. But he's not like this. We all know that AK-41 is not this loud, boisterous. He's not going to give the pregame speech. Demario Davis is that guy. He's the guy that I think that's where you lose a lot too. Not just the tackles, the fact that he's the guy giving the Drew Brees speech before the game.
Yeah, Jeff Duncan has asked this question several times over the last couple of years, and whether Demario leaves in free agency or not, as you say, he's only here another year or two tops. Who becomes that guy?
I don't know.
In his locker room, and I guess at this point you'd say Tyler Shuck is the most likely to become that guy, but he's still young enough and inexperienced enough to where I don't think you can immediately put him in that role. And the answer might be they just don't have anybody to do it for a couple of years.
Mm.
Because Cam Jordan, if you bring him back, he's not really that guy either.
No.
Chase Young doesn't strike me as that guy. Like, I don't know that they have someone unless Shuck grows into that role. Olave is not that guy. I mean, I don't know who becomes that.
That's a good question. I mean, maybe that's an entire you spent a giant portion of a show talking about that, because I actually think that that's important. I mean, is a pregame speech that important? Not in the grand scheme of things, but that's you looked up to Demario Davis because he is in the middle. He's got those eyes looking at him. He's got that respect. And again, there are players that have that kind of respect on the team, but I don't know if there's the one guy that you're looking up to pregame. And I just think that's important.
Yeah, I mean, particularly when things are not.
Gabe says Jameis can be the guy. Bring him back.
Please, just for the clips alone, man. It really matters when things are not going well, right? When things are going well, everybody's motivated, everybody's playing hard. But when you're on that 3-game losing streak and things are starting to slip away, do you have the guy who can bring you together and say, let's galvanize and go get one instead of letting this continue to snowball on us? And that, I don't know who that is. I mean, maybe Justin Reed.
Maybe. Could be. I could see that for sure. No matter what, the Saints are going to have to figure something out, like you said, because at best he's got a year, maybe 2 left. We'll see. Maybe Demario Davis signs a 1-year contract and sees what happens, and then maybe he plays last year. So I don't know. All kinds of ifs and buts. We'll see what happens. We got plenty of time to talk about it, Zach. We got a long off season. Free agency starts on March 9th. Mike, I'm kind of guessing we'll probably touch on free agency again next week, because next Friday is the last Friday that we'll have before we get into that free agency period. So who knows? We'll talk about whatever the hell we want to talk about.
All right, man. I got to get my butt up to Mississippi for a youth soccer tournament this week.
Ooh, fun stuff.
Yeah.
At least the weather's nice, right?
It should be really good weather, and we're going out to dinner at a place on the reservoir out there outside Jackson. So it should be a nice weekend, actually.
All right, well, enjoy it. Go team, and we will see you next Friday.
All right, man.
Zach Ewing, everybody, our regular Friday guest. Man, I tell you what, Zach lends so much to the show, and I see the numbers go up and how many people are watching when Zach's on, because we just dive in and Zach knows what he's talking about. Real quick, hold on. I'm getting verklempt just thinking about it. There are a couple other things I wanted to talk about when it comes to Matt's story before we bring Gabe in and wrap the show on this Friday. But again, I encourage everyone to go read the story. I know they hate when I'm not giving everything away. I promise. There's so much more to read inside of Matt's story. But one thing he said, a couple other things that he said is the Saints want another pass rusher, whether or not Cam Jordan returns or not. The Saints are going to need another pass rusher, and I absolutely believe that. I think that they're probably going to draft one fairly early in this draft. I don't want it to be. And I had a debate with a couple friends on Facebook yesterday when I posted the short of what position the Saints should go at. Should they go after Jeremiah Love? It was an interesting debate. But if the Saints, I'm telling you right now, if the Saints draft a defensive player with the 8th pick, even after everything we've said, you're going to want to watch the live show, because I'm going to go off. You're going to want to see my reaction to the Saints use. That's just my opinion. We'll see what happens. But I don't think it's going to happen in the first round of the draft, but I do think it could happen in the second or the third round, or again, potentially free agency. Also talks about, quote, never say never, but the Saints unlikely to take an offensive lineman in the round 1. I think you want to talk about reactions. Can you imagine Saints fans' reactions if they drafted an offensive lineman in the first round, whether it be a tackle, guard, whatever? Because theoretically, you could draft a tackle and move Fuaga to guard. I don't think they would do that, but he has experience playing guard. It could have, again, very slight chance. I don't think it's going to happen. Could you imagine Saints fans if they drafted an offensive lineman in the first round? But that kind of leads into the last thing I want to talk about, and Zach touched on it. But, and I think someone in the Dad family was talking about this earlier. I can't remember who. But Luke Fortner, the backup center, and we know backup center, he started most of the year because Eric McCoy got hurt, and Eric McCoy now hurt 2 years in a row. But Matt says that Luke Fortner is getting a ton of attention. here before free agency starts, and that Luke Fortner is probably going to get a chance to start somewhere else because of all the time that he played as a starter last year for the Saints, obviously for the Jaguars before that, got him in the trade. So I think the Saints need to plan on as if Luke Fortner is going to be gone. Then who do you have as a backup center? You got to think about that. I mean, maybe that's a possibility where, remember, so Cesar Ruiz used to be a center. Maybe you think about having him prepared to be able to play backup center, maybe in that role. All things that we need to think about going forward, and I think it's things that the Saints will talk about. Joe Trombator, hello there, sir. We'll see you tonight as I cover Mandeville. We'll see you. Earl says that Justin Reed is that guy, the guy that had become Demario Davis, become the captain of this team. They need to think about it. Who is going to be that guy? This is going to happen soon. Before we get to the final parts of the show here, I want you, again, please consider supporting this channel, even if it's by just subscribing to the Dattitude YouTube page. We would love it if that happens. We are doing more shorts. I'm doing daily shorts now. Well, I say daily. I'm doing them on days that we don't have a show. I may end up running shorts on the afternoons that we do have a show like we used to back in the day. We'll see. But for right now, I plan on running shorts, highlights, little clips from the show during the week that can run and on Tuesdays, Thursdays, Saturdays, and Sundays for sure. We'll see. We'll see how that's going to go. But we're running those on YouTube. We're running them on Facebook. And we're running them on our TikTok page. But please, if you would like to help out an independent journalist, independent now podcast host, please consider supporting the channel. Again, first thing you do is give us a like on this show. If you've watched it. Remember we used to do that, and the thumb used to come up. Doesn't do that anymore. And then subscribe is the second thing you can do. And then the third thing, if you really want to help us, is to monetarily support the channel. You can become a member of the Dattitude family like many of our followers have. All right. As we close out the show here, we're going to bring on Gabe in just a minute. But we told you earlier, we're letting you know more about how Evangeline Securities can help you figure out what your family-run or privately held business might be worth, whether it's time to sell. You know the question. How do they do it? Well, after their complimentary valuation of your company, if you decide to proceed, native New Orleanian Nick Braden and the folks at Evangeline, they'll begin an extensive auction process from among established private equity funds from around the whole wide world. They'll maximize the return for the founder and his or her family. Evangeline Securities is the top producer on their platform. There are very few companies like them in this area. Go ahead, try to find one. Go ahead. You're not going to do it. There are 0.0 companies with their dedication and success. They are fully licensed. They're ready to serve you. So get in touch with Nick about what's really important. You know what's really important. Say it with me. There's for your life. You can find them at www.evangelinesecurities.com. Joe Trombator subscribed to the Dattitude YouTube page. We appreciate you so much. And again, I will see you tonight at Mandeville High. All right. You know what time it is. We've got about 10 minutes left in the show. It is that time of the day. It's Fridays with Gabe Henderson. You've had all this time to think about what you want to talk about. Make it exciting. Go ahead. Press a button if you want.
Oh, it's been brewing this entire time. No, I told you earlier, not about the rest of your life, but I told you that I would kind of have some takes about what you and Zach talked about, and that's what I'd bring to the table today. So I actually think it's not as unlikely.
Hold on. Before you give me your take, this one's paying. UBN's paying me $20, and he wants to know, can we get a ooh la la rep on the show?
There's
think
two
we should?
L's missing there.
Ooh la la.
L for all the L's that LSU baseball handed them in a super regional.
Look, some of our regulars and actually a few of our there's at least one subscriber I know who is a ooh la la alum. I'm not trying to piss. Some people, why do you keep bringing that up? I don't know. Because it's fun, I guess. Sorry. Anyway, UBN trying to stir the pot. You finally stirred it enough. Okay. Now, go back to what you were talking about.
I don't plan on stirring the pot today, actually.
Okay, good. So I don't want to.
I don't. But I will say, I don't think it's unlikely that Derek Carr, if he were to want to come back and the Falcons wanted him, I don't think it's as unlikely as people would think. As I mentioned in
It's a
my
good thing
comment in the
Lance wasn't
background-
here today. We've spent like 15 minutes
yeah.
talking about Derek Carr today.
Yeah, it is.
He'd be really pissed.
He did the Saints a favor helping them out with the cap last year, and I know people don't want to admit it, but it's true. I wonder if the Saints wouldn't, as a gesture of good faith, kind of say, you know what, here, if you want to go play there and they'll give us something that's
maybe
worthwhile.
It's not out of the realm of possibility.
No, it's not.
I don't see the Falcons actually wanting him, though. Again, I'm going to go back to what I said before. If you want Derek Carr and you're going out on that big of a limb, you're not going to pay $30 million for Derek Carr if it means you're pretty much giving up on Michael Penix.
You got to think. They're
I'm not saying
they got a quarterback on a rookie contract right now.
That's true.
So you're not paying people at the position a ton, and their third string quarterback is Easton Stick. So
I don't know, man. I mean,
where are they
if you bring in Derek Carr, I mean, what are you going to sign him to a 2-year deal? And so then you're going 2 more years on holding on. Isn't Michael Penix an older dude anyway?
He's 24, 25.
He is. He's going to be 26 on opening day. So if you go and bring Carr in and start him for 2 years, then you're talking about being 28 before he starts again. I don't know, man. I don't see that.
It depends on Stefanski.
Yeah, it definitely.
I don't know if
100%.
Can we say with certainty? This is kind of a rhetorical question because I don't think we can. Can we say that Michael Penix is the guy in Atlanta? I don't think so.
No, you can't. But at the same time, when you bring in a coach, and I think that's probably part of the discussions when you're talking to a coach is how do you feel about Michael Penix? Because we used the 8th pick of the draft, coincidentally, used the 8th pick of the draft to go get Michael Penix a couple years ago, and that was
more of an Arthur Blank decision, though. They've since, Matt Ryan's in the building.
Oh, hold on. This is easy. Ryan wants to know, you pay $30 million for Malik. Are you serious? Derek Carr. Look, you can hate Derek Carr you want, but Malik Willis, I'm not paying $30 million for Malik Willis, period. I'm not paying $10 million. I know somebody is, but I'm not. You're insane if you think that Malik Willis, even after Derek Carr with a year off and a bum shoulder.
If you're giving me the option between the two, I'm paying Malik Willis.
Okay, you're crazy.
No, I don't think it's no. It's
I don't know why.
Here's the thing.
You're high on the Malik Willis train.
I'm really not.
You've kind of been.
Malik Willis. I saw him play with Tennessee. He's not all that. But Derek Carr, as Zach said, we haven't seen him play. He's coming off a major injury, and he's in his mid-30s. I'm not saying I want him.
I wouldn't want either one of them.
I would personally pay.
I wouldn't pay $30 million for either one. By the way, I don't want to make that clear.
Well, here's what you got to think, and this is where I'm not saying this is how you have to think because I'm not going to tell you how to think. This is how I think of that question. If you're a team who needs Derek Carr or Malik Willis, if you're choosing between the two, you're not a contender.
Yeah.
So by the time that you could build a contending team, Derek Carr would be in his late 30s, or you would get Malik Willis, who, if he pans out and he's a good quarterback, he could be your guy of the future. I'm not saying I think he is, but I'm saying it's likelier that you will get more longevity out of Malik Willis if you're not a contending team.
Poor Lance. I mean, he's going to turn this show off after like 5 minutes. Apathy says Carr should only want to go to the Vikings. It's the most ready-made team. Well, he can want to go to the Vikings. That doesn't mean they want him. They might want Cousins ahead of him. Another one, another comment that's interesting, worth putting up there. Scott Claymont says trade Rattler for what? That's also actually, I'm glad you brought that up, Scott, because that is actually Matt spends a paragraph on, or maybe 2 paragraphs on the potential of trading Rattler because it has come up at the combine. And this is actually a year where there are a lot of backup quarterbacks that are going to be in the free agent market. So nobody's going to want to trade for Rattler. You literally would get nothing for Rattler.
Not only that, what you would get in return for Rattler is not as valuable as having him in the building.
Correct. He already knows your system. They're not going to want to. They're not going to give him up for nothing when you have basically a free, because he's almost free. You have almost a free backup that you can feel comfortable putting in if you have to.
Let's talk about the scenario no one wants to talk about, but if you're an NFL team and you're assessing risk management, you have to talk about it. If Tyler Shuck gets hurt, I don't want to turn the keys over to Hunter Deckers.
No, I mean you're screwed anyway. I mean,
Rattler out there.
Exactly. I would rather Spencer Rattler out there because you're pretty much hosed if it comes down to that anyway. You might as well just stick with what you have and what you know. But you're just not going to get anything. All right, dude. Dude, what did you woke up this? You're like pressing like 12 buttons. You have nothing better to do than to type stupid crap up that nobody. I mean, he's just like trying to piss people off. He's like, I'm going to piss somebody off today, some kind of way. All right, what else you got before we say bye bye?
In terms of other quarter, we talked about this briefly in text. I am of the belief that Malik Willis will get a $30 million contract.
Oh, yeah, I know you are. I'm going to have to see it to believe it.
It's not a testament to Malik Willis and where I think, but especially this year when we're coming off a Sam Darnold redemption arc Super Bowl, people are going to be looking for the next Sam Darnold. And don't get me started on how crazy that statement is, but Zach alluded to it earlier. After Fernando Mendoza, there's nobody.
Yeah.
So if you're a quarterback needy team and you've got some money like the Miami Dolphins, Malik Willis makes a lot of sense.
You're going to stick with Tua before you go with Malik Willis. Come on.
I don't know. New coach.
Tua sucks.
I don't know.
Tyler, what's going on? Welcome to the show. Glad you're here. I saw your dad in Endymion. He was in the float right behind me. What are our thoughts on the cheetah? What kind of? I mean, I was looking at the free agent wide receiver. I was looking at the free agent wide receivers, and he was like listed. So I was kind of surprised he was listed at like 6. Does he lose any speed now that he's getting a little bit older? What does he go for?
He goes for whatever the Kansas City Chiefs offer him.
Yeah, I think he's going to go back there too.
I think that's the worst kept secret of the offseason.
Yeah, I think that's pretty much
the Kansas City Chiefs, especially bringing back Eric Bieniemy. They are trying to run back the glory days. One last ride for Travis Kelce.
I don't think that's
going to try and get one, especially with Rashee Rice now that he's in more legal trouble. So what's the answer to that? Bringing in another guy with legal trouble?
Yeah. Barry says Falcons dumping Cousins. That QB1 has come off an injury. The QB room is getting thin. I don't disagree with you, Barry, but I still don't think you're going to go out and spend $30 million on a quarterback. Prove me wrong. Maybe you're right. I didn't see this apathy. Was Aaron Glenn sleeping at the combine?
Yeah, kind of. He's sitting there.
Yeah, kind of.
His eyes were heavy. We'll say that. But who wouldn't sleep at the combine? The combine's boring as hell.
I can honestly say I've never been, nor have I ever really wanted to go.
I've never been. I've never really wanted to watch. I have watched it, never really want to.
All right. I missed it. BN says he sleeps on the side.
A camera panned to him, and he was getting a bit heavy-eyed. Yeah.
Ryan says he doesn't want a 35-year-old cheated. Yeah, that's not.
What don't you want about him, Brian? Do you not want the fact that he's coming off an injury, the fact that he's going to be really expensive, the fact that he's got off-field legal trouble, the fact that he's a diva? I mean, what's not to want with Tyreek Hill?
Sounds like a perfect Texan.
No, it does not.
Maybe I can press your button.
Jim, we tried that last year, if you don't recall, when we got
Stephon Diggs.
I don't think we're going to be running it back.
Yeah, I don't think either. All right. Have a good weekend, my friend. We will see you on Monday.
Likewise.
All right. Final show of February. It's so good to be back for season 6 getting underway here in the Dattitude podcast. Thanks to all of you for your support. It is sometimes it's a little, when I look at certain numbers and certain things, it could be overwhelming at times. So there are times when maybe not. And then other times I look at it, I'm like, wow, did that many people like this video? That's pretty cool. So I thank everyone for their support as we continue to move on. Season 6 is underway. 1 week in the books. I don't know who are going to be our guests next week. I don't even know whether we're going to have a guest on Monday or whether we're going to go Mono-y Monday style. We haven't done that in a while. So maybe we'll have a Mono-y Monday. As Callie says, go Lady Tigers. We talked about the Lady Tigers on Monday, and then they went out last night and beat Tennessee on senior night. I didn't even bring that up. Great show. Thank you, S. Callie. Yeah, so the Lady Tide will probably bring that. We'll probably talk a little bit about LSU baseball on Monday. Again, free agency is a little less than 2 weeks away. It's on a Wednesday. So we could have, who knows, Gabe, we might have breaking news on that on Wednesday, March 9th show. That's going to be an interesting show. So, but it is going to wrap it up. Ryan, thank you. And thanks again, thanks to all the regulars and everyone else that watched the show, whether this is your first time here, time number 477 or somewhere in between. We appreciate you all so much. But that will do us for this Friday. I want to thank today's guest, Zach Ewing. He will be here. He's here just about every Friday. There will be some Fridays in the off season. I'm already starting to plan what's coming up the next 2 months. And you know what's on the horizon, y'all? Show number 500 is on the horizon. If my math is correct, now I may manipulate some things to where it isn't, because I don't know if this is the perfect day to have show 500. But right now, I think show 500 is scheduled to be the day before the NFL draft. That's kind of weird. Isn't it? So right now I'm thinking I'm looking for a special guest. I think I know who I want that special guest to be. I don't want to let the cat out of the bag because I got some work to do to make sure that it happens. So we'll see. As we get a little bit closer, we'll talk a little bit more about it. But show number 500 is on the horizon. Hard to believe. It seems like we just had show number 400 with Jim Henderson last year. That was a lot of fun. Show number 300 back a couple years ago. We had you guest on as that was Gabe's idea. We had the guest on as for show number 300. That worked out pretty well. Maybe we'll do that again. Maybe we'll have a members only show one day. Special guest. It will not be Mel Kiper. I promise you that. You know what I think about Mel Kiper, UBN? I think you and Mel Kiper both pick, give me a mock draft that's going to be both real close to one another. You probably both have about the same amount of right picks in it. Mendoza and then nothing else. So anyway, we will see what happens on Monday. Not sure if it will be a mono Monday or a guest. A reminder to subscribe to the Dattitude YouTube page. Click the little bell to receive notifications when we go in the air live, which is every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday. Our next show is Monday, March the 2nd at 11 a.m. First show of March. You can also find us wherever you get your podcasts, including Apple, Spotify, and many more. Have a fantastic, glorious, wonderful, beautiful weather kind of weekend. We will see you all on Monday. And until then, take it easy, my friends.